everyone. Welcome to the Ambition Customer Success Office Hours. This is a great place for you to come for any Ambition best practices. We will tell you about industry insights, everything going on with the platform that our customers tell us about in terms of gamification, coaching, sales management. These are offered to you all twice a month on the second and fourth Thursday of the month. We will send you out the links to sign up for this after the call as well. We have two people doing this today. So we have the lovely Michelle Bullock and we have myself, Megan Nelson. And what we're going to be going through today is, ambition coaching. So we're going to go through what the user actually experiences in here, because this is going to be a huge transition for your employees, but I promise it is going to be for the better. And then we're going to talk about tips and tricks for what those follow-up items should be with coaching, as well as what goals are. And then of course, we'll leave some time at the end if anyone has any questions for us while you have two of us on the line.
And just a reminder, those questions do not have to be about our coaching action plans or goals topics. It is open, wide open.
Okay, so our goal here is to give you guys the ultimate one-on-one experience. I have to tell you all a story because I used to be a manager of a customer success team. And now that I'm at Ambition, I realized I was doing it completely wrong. So what we used to do is I would take my reps into a room with a piece of paper and a manila folder, and we would just answer questions. I would actually write down the answers to the questions that I asked them. At that time, we would spend about 20 minutes pulling up Salesforce reports throughout that time that I could have done prior to. And at the end of the conversation, we'd be like, "You're good? You're good?" We'd initial the paper, and then I'd file that paper into my desk. Never to be seen ever again, right? That's not good. And we're going to try to improve on that there. Michelle, can you tell me about some of the coaching you've experienced?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say probably along the lines of when you go and you meet with a manager and you really don't know the agenda ahead of time, it's not a super productive conversation because you're not having time to kind of think constructively about the answers and, you know, exactly what you want to bring up in that coaching conversation. So it takes a really dedicated rep to put in the time and the effort to come to that coaching conversation prepared with, I want to talk about X, Y, and Z account. I got this objection last week. What do I do? And so what Ambition does, and Megan will get into this here in a little bit, but allows us to be a little bit more prepared going into those coaching conversations, both from a rep's perspective, they know exactly what you are going to be asking about. And they probably are going to come with some specific topics because you're requiring answers. And then from a managerial perspective, obviously agenda is outlined there. And then you're also getting to see the reps answers ahead of time. So from my perspective, the coaching conversations that have always been a struggle in the past are the ones where I don't know what we're talking about.
Perfect. I definitely agree, Michelle. That is my favorite part of using coaching as a CSM at Ambition, because prior to this, I probably would have just told my manager that the account that is most at risk is the one that I just got done speaking to. When
fresh.
If I had time, exactly, that terrible conversation is fresh in my brain. But if I had the time to prep, then I can look at all of my accounts, look at what the most important one is, and really go after the problems that are going to have the greatest impact on my book of business. Another thing is that they just make it professional, right? Everything's being tracked. I actually had a customer that I reviewed coaching with for the first time the other day, and they were like, "I wish I would have had this for an employee that I just had to let go, because I would have been able to show all of the effort to my superior that I did to try to turn this around for that individual." And then finally, making the conversations productive. So you need to get something out of that coaching to make it an actual managerial coaching session. And then What I wanted to share here, I love this client. They're called Audubon. In the US, they're called Hear.com. They sell hearing aids, and they started using our coaching product about 6 months ago, and they really got into it here in the summer now that everyone is working remotely. And this is some of the feedback that their end users had on our product. You can see that it's been a complete game changer for them. They feel like they're actually going to be able to move up in this company and hopefully retain these people for a greater period of time than they would have without our coaching program.
And I think a great point to take from this slide here as well is that your reps are hungry for coaching. Like, they want to meet with you. They want to get better. They want to be the best employees most of the time that they can be. And so taking the time to make it a meaningful coaching conversation and not just like a checkbox for you as a manager, I think is going to, definitely provide dividends in terms of, employee retention and engagement. So as you can see here from like these quotes, like these reps are pumped about ambition coaching. Like, they're pumped that they're able to kind of see those historical coaching conversations, that they're able to be productive and kind of have meaningful outcomes coming out of these coaching conversations. So just your reps are hungry for it. They need it.
Now, what I wanted to show you all today is actually what the reps see when you guys go in and you start creating programs and check-ins for them. A lot of the times as product owners and managers, you don't get to see this unless you go into like the cubicle, but you're not able to do that right now and stand behind one of your reps. So when they log in to Ambition, which they should be doing within Salesforce, if they're Salesforce clients, get that widget, guys, make it easier for them to access us. If not, just go ahead, go onto your Ambition instance, and they will just click on the word coaching within their user account. And that is actually going to give them a timeline of every coaching conversation that you've had with them. So we're literally taking the manila folder. Most of my accounts that I talk to are using Google Docs. So we're taking your Google Docs and we're putting them in order and having everything that you've discussed right here at their fingertips. Now, what you see on the screen now is going to be the form that they're expected to fill out. Our manager gives us access to the check-in, so it makes them due at the beginning of the week. So we have a few days prior to our actual meeting with our rep to answer those questions and to really think about them. I definitely recommend doing that, and always have your questions be open-ended. We want to make sure that we're not just giving them the opportunity to say yes or no throughout this year. Make them think about what their answers are. So they will get notifications each time one of these check-ins are due. Now, this documentation that we have here, we're not going to dive into it, but this is going to be stuff that we will follow up with. A lot of the times when I'm talking to a product owner, we want to know how many times they're going to be notified for everything like that. So this documentation is great to share when you're launching Ambition with a user group.
And I'm going to post some of these documents and a few other ones in the chat, so keep an eye on there. And then we'll also follow up in a blog post with the links to these help articles as well. So if you don't have time to bookmark them, they will come out. All right, so the next topic that we kind of wanted to touch on real quick was action plans. And generally, or I guess the idea of action plans came about because within these coaching conversations, we saw a lot of our managers taking notes back in that Google Doc or back in that manila folder and keeping track there of what they're trying to hold these reps accountable for, or in worst case scenario, they're not keeping track of these outcomes of the coaching conversations. And so the idea behind action plans was a way to, one, hold your reps accountable for the outcomes of these coaching conversations, whether it's around a specific metric that you're trying to impact, or maybe it's some feedback that you need them to acknowledge and you want that historical record of it there. Or maybe it's an LMS external URL that you need to link to make sure that they're completing this module. Whatever it is, action plans are a really great way for you to kind of keep track and manage that within Ambition. And just a really quick preview of what that looks like. So we're adding a due date, we're adding a completion date, and here's just kind of like a quick view of what those might look like. So it could be an external URL. So again, a module that's an individual has to take, or maybe it's even a link to a separate document that they need to fill out and re-upload, or maybe it's a question, right? So there's a lot of different options here as far as the actions that are coming out of these coaching conversations, but our action plans give you a really easy way to keep track of that, and to hold the reps accountable for the outcomes.
And this is where us CSMs come in, right? Because we see people using coaching all of the time. So like I said there, we want to make sure that we are giving them metric-driven goals from this. So out of all of the KPIs that you guys are tracking in Ambition, there's going to be somewhere that they need to work on, right? So make a goal for them. Say they're not having all of their demos sit from the one-to-one that you just had. Let's make a goal to have 6 demos sit before the next time we meet. And that can be tracked all within Ambition. Another great thing to have in here is that their user dashboard should be something that tracks not only the goals for them in their role, but some personal goals or career goals. Maybe you're working with an account executive and they want to become a senior account executive. They can make a goal to achieve that within a 3-month time period. Or if they have a personal goal, say they want to pay off a student loan by this specific time period, they can go ahead and manually track inputs to those specific goals within Ambition on their own. And then the last thing I wanted to point out here is that we want to enable managers to figure out what works, right? So if you have someone that's underperforming in a specific area and you make a goal or follow-up item for an individual to achieve 6 demo sat after a meeting, go ahead and mark that as a quarterback play that you're going to use in the future. We want to think of you guys as that quarterback with that arm sleeve at the game and give you everything that worked in the past to go ahead and use in the future.
And Megan brought up a really good point in there with the goals. Yes, they can be something that we're actively tracking in Ambition. So any of those active metrics that you see anywhere else across the platform can be used for goals. But you can also do a manual entry goal. So if it's something like, networking events attended, not a great example during COVID, but I think that's, something that can be tracked within those goals. You'll just select, instead of automatic through existing metric, you'll select manual entry. And so it's really easy to keep track of those goals for an individual that are, maybe even personal, but also the ones that just aren't tracked in Ambition.
Okay. Now is the time. If you guys have any questions for us, we would love to answer them.
Feel free to put any questions that you might have into the chat window. And if you don't have any questions, we can end a little bit early today. I will say, like we mentioned in the beginning, these are held twice a month, the 2nd and the 4th Thursday of every month. So we should be holding this again in 2-ish weeks. So please continue to join us for this. It's rotating topics. So come as you can. And as always, we'll send out the recording and some of the links that I shared here today in a follow-up email. All right. I'm not seeing any questions come through. So we'll go ahead and end a little bit early, but appreciate you guys joining us here today. And as always, reach out to your CSM or to the support team if you have questions or need any additional assistance. Thanks, guys.
Good. Thanks, guys. Bye.